All right, here we go. This is Sarah Viscarando with the After School Enrichment Accelerator, and I'm talking to Art. Oh, my little mascot has come in. You'll meet him in a minute.
I hear the
That's
clickety 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 in the background.
my dog. I'm sorry. And I'm talking to Art Gruenberg of Puppet Art Theater Company. Art, thank you for coming on with me today.
Thanks for having me, Sarah. I appreciate it.
Can you please tell me how you started Puppet Art Theater Company?
I was in school to be an elementary school teacher because everyone said, "Oh, Art, you'd be a great elementary school teacher." And I had no idea what I wanted to do or who I wanted to be. And so I was in college, and my last year of college, I took a puppetry course, and the teacher of that course, his name is Richard Bay. He's since retired. He taught an amazing puppetry course. And I fell in love. I'd just happened to have a minor in drama because I'd taken so many theater classes while I was in school, and his was the last one that I took, and it just changed the trajectory of my life. He hired me on into his company, and I started doing shows. There's a little place close to where I live in Vacaville called the Nut Tree, and it used to be sort of like a little kids theme park where you would go and you would stop, and they had lots of like, walnuts and all sorts of crazy things, and then they had a train that would go around, and they had a big puppet stage out there. And that was the very first time I started doing shows, and I fell in love with it because I'm a performer at heart, and in a puppet show, I got to perform all of the characters. If I'm an actor in a play, I just get to be one character, but if I'm the puppeteer of a show with multiple characters, I get to be all of the different characters all at the same time, and I fell in love with it. It was amazing.
So now, as a performer, you still qualify as an enrichment provider because even though you're not going into elementary schools or preschools or even high schools to teach people how to make puppets, you are going into educational spaces and you're performing there. Like you have, we met at
A
so
performer showcase, is
at
that
a
right?
performer showcase,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Yeah,
tell me
so
about your work with librarians.
we go into libraries all the time. In fact, I just took, I think, two library bookings in the last half an hour, which is
Oh,
terrific.
nice.
So we're going to San Leandro for a library there, and then Danville for another library. So we travel to libraries all the time, and it started with just summer reading programs where libraries are trying to get kids into the libraries during the summer because I guess there's a decline in their reading abilities over the summer between one grade and the next. And so the libraries thought, gosh, if we could bridge that and keep kids reading, we could keep their reading level at the same level. And so they had to have some lures to get kids into the library, and puppet shows and musicians and teaching artists and all sorts of things they find to be successful. And I love going to libraries mainly because it's not the kids' turf. And it's not my turf. It's sort of a neutral territory, and there's already behavior expectations in a library that kids are going to follow generally. And so
Right.
they're really, really fun to perform at. And you get a really large range of ages too. You get the grown-ups that are with the kids along with the kids. And my favorite thing is to hear the two different tiers of laughter where I hear the kids laughing because something's funny to them. And then we have a little joke in there for the grown-ups, and then the grown-ups are laughing. And that combination for me just makes it really, really fun.
So did you find out with the involvement of your mentor how to organize your business? Because it's not easy for performers to figure out how to work.
I found out how not to do a lot of things from him business wise. Like as a puppet mentor, as a puppeteer mentor, he was brilliant. In fact, he was the one that like when we were doing shows at Nut Trees, like you've got to have the jokes in there for the grown-ups. It's got to be interesting for them because it's such a transient situation. They're not like in the show, they're going to pick their kids up and take them on the little train ride or something, right? So
Right.
so that's where sort of the mix of humor that, and like shows like the Muppet Show where it was like there was some stuff for kids in there and there was some stuff for the grown-ups, and it was just such a nice mix. And I think Sesame Street did the same thing. So Richard, my mentor, taught me this. Sesame Street certainly taught me this. The Muppets certainly taught me this, that it's a good idea to have that. And then I just fell in love with that idea of like, okay, how can I throw in something that just the grown-ups are going to get and the kids aren't going to get, and it's just sort of like a little nudge to the grown-ups that way. Yeah.
So do you script extensively before you do the shows? You memorize your work like actors memorize lines?
No.
You're off
What?
the cuff, how
Not,
even?
I mean, we're not completely off the cuff. We've got a really good more and more I'm doing more scripting. Like I'm working on a brand new show right now. It's called Tommy and the Time Machine, and that started with a first draft outline and then a first draft script. And we've so that's been a far more traditional way of creating a show. But back in the day, we would perform our shows at Fairy Tale Town, which is a little theme park here, kind of like
In
Oakland's
Sacramento.
Fairyland here in
Yes.
Sacramento. And they would have us do a show and we would run the show for 5 days a week, about four performances a day. And it was exhausting, but we would come in with sort of a sketch of an idea of what was going to happen in the show. And then we would try it out in front of the audience. And then we would get two or three more cracks at it in that same day with different
Right.
audiences. And by the end of a 2 week run, we would have our show. And
Mhm.
I love that way of shaping a show because like I can have really good ideas. I can think things are going to be really fun and are going to really hold an audience's attention, but
Mm,
until I put it in front of an audience,
completely.
have no idea. And so with Tommy and the Time Machine, since it's a scripted thing, we'll rehearse it in the studio a ton before we bring that show out. We will put it in front of a few test audiences just to see like what's working and what's not working, and then make some alterations to the show based on that. I guess that's, I mean, I'm not comparing myself to a Broadway show, but that's what Broadway shows do is
Yeah, you're
they'll
road testing.
exactly. They'll put the show. In fact, we saw what was it? Young Frankenstein. We
Mm,
saw that in previews before it went to Broadway. This was years ago. We went to Seattle and saw it. Mel Brooks was actually in the audience with us, which was really cool.
amazing.
And we got to see them, like preview it and test it out. And then when we went out afterwards, we were in a restaurant, and the guy who was doing the composing for it was there and doing some work, and so we got to chat with him about the process as well. So
Oh,
it's neat that
fun.
artists, performing artists, tend to develop work in very similar ways.
Right. So you have, it sounds like kind of a, maybe it's wrong to make it sound hierarchical, but like you've got different levels of performance space. Like, can you talk something about the places that you've performed?
Yeah, I mean, primarily we're in libraries and elementary schools. That's gosh, that's 90% of the work that we
The
do.
bread and butter.
Exactly. And those are the two. We also do a lot of preschools, and those are fine. And we do, lots of public events as well. And those are all right too. But elementary schools, I tell you, we've just returned to them after the pandemic. And so many of our shows are geared towards a TK through second grade audience. And when we have 350 kids sitting in front of us, and we're performing one of our shows, and we've got them in the palm of their hands, and they get really noisy, and then they get really quiet.
Mhm.
It's just, I mean, it's such a good mix of the right show for the right audience and the thrill of having 350 kids watch my show at the same time is really exciting. And so that's one of my favorite venues. And our my company has two different types of shows too. We've got standard shows where it's just a simple 8 foot wide puppet stage, no special lighting needed, no special anything needed. It's just us, the puppets, a few simple set pieces, and our audience. And then we've got our deluxe productions, and those have sometimes projected sets and animations. Black light is a lot. I just performed Winnie the Witch last night at where was I? Milpitas Library. And it's a lovely library there. They've got a beautiful theater. And so it gets nice and dark. So the puppets glow in the dark. We've got a projector that's shining projected sets. So you're in like a creepy mansion, and then you're in a haunted forest. And then it also has animations. So when you're in the creepy castle, you've got two little torches that have animated flickering fire. You've got bats flying through. It's really a fun production. And what's neat is like last night I had a woman come up to me, and she chatted with me for about 5 or 10 minutes, just saying, "Oh my goodness, like we weren't expecting this, and then this happened. It was just you backstage, and I can't believe." And so to know that somebody comes in with sort of a preconceived idea of what a puppet show is, and that I've gotten a chance to exceed her expectations in such a way that she wants to come up and just express it to me, just makes me feel like, all right, I'm on the right track with this particular show. I felt
Oh,
pretty good about that particular performance.
that's gorgeous. Well, what kind of growth goals do you have for your company? Like you sound like you're just flourishing with performances. And I see on your website you do occasional would they be Zoom performances or they're online performances?
Yeah, we do. We have online performances where classrooms from all over the West. In fact, we've got what's the furthest one east that we have? We've got a show coming up on October 30th. It's a Halloweeny version of The Boy Who Cried Wolf. And classrooms from all over the country will come. And we have as far east as Chicago. We've got a classroom from Chicago coming in, but we've got classrooms in Arizona and California, obviously, Oregon and Washington State. And they all join us in a Zoom webinar, and we have a live intro, and then we do the show, and then we have a live Q&A afterwards. And it's really, really neat. It came out of the pandemic, but we decided, well, let's see if we can keep it going. And so we have a different performance every month, and classrooms can subscribe, so they pay a fee, and they're welcome to come to any of the performances. Sometimes classrooms just want to come to one performance. Sometimes we've got several schools that have signed up all of their classes, and there's a special rate for that. So yeah, that's actually really interesting. That's where we came up with the idea of the projected sets and animations in our live shows. Is I started adding projected sets and animations, like digital sets and stuff, in our live stream shows. And that I got really excited. It was such a hard learning curve,
Mhm.
but once we got it rolling, it was really fun. It really turned out nice. They're really nice productions.
So what's on the horizon? What are you doing next?
Well, we hired a puppeteer about a year and a half ago in Los Angeles area, and she's got four of our productions down there, and she's getting a new production, I think this January, if we can get her trained and all worked out on it. So we're hoping to see the LA market continuing to grow. Her name's Alex. She is a fantastic puppeteer. What I look for when I'm hiring puppeteers is somebody that shows up and is reliable. That's number one. And to find that with somebody as talented as Alex is absolutely tremendous. And then my puppeteer Rachel and I are here in Northern California, and I'm at about the number of shows that I want to be doing every year. So I'm not trying to increase the number of shows that I'm doing, but I would like to see our deluxe productions go out a little bit more, because those are going out, I don't know, about 15% of the time, which is nice, but I'd like to get those shows in front of audiences more. And Tommy and the Time Machine is one of those deluxe productions. So as soon as that's up, and it should be up by next April, we'll be happy. And we're celebrating 30 years uh, this coming September. It'll be 30 years since we started the company in September
Amazing.
2026. So we're working on some really, really fun things for our 30th anniversary too.
That's amazing. Now, do you have any, do you share your storylines, right? Like teachers will sometimes sell curriculum. Do you have scripts that you sell to other puppeteers or something in that family?
We're not selling our scripts right now, because it's not just about the words that we say, it's about
Mm,
how it's presented. And
sure.
so that was very important to us when we brought in our puppeteer in LA. Was to We flew her into Sacramento, and we did a good week of training, and a lot of that was on puppet manipulation and learning the particular shows that we were learning. But even more of it was like, what is the story from beginning to end, from the moment we arrive at a library or a school? What is the story that we want the client to experience, and then what is the story that we want the audience to experience as they're coming in? For like, I changed this up about 2 years ago, where when I'm in an auditorium or a cafeteria waiting for the elementary school audience to come in, I'll try to figure out what door they're going to come in, and I'll go over to that door and I'll greet each kid as they're coming into the MP room ready for the show. And then I'll do the same as they're exiting. And that's just something that's new, and that sort of individual moment with each kid that's in the audience, and that's 350 kids in a lot of our audiences,
Yeah,
like
that's not
having a
brief.
moment with them, I think it makes it so special for them. And that's like, I want my show to be good, and they are, but I also want kids to feel special. And I've seen other performers do this type of thing, and I think it's a really neat thing to get to do with the kids as well. So,
Oh,
yeah.
super. Oh, that's fabulous. Well, I hope that this isn't the only time that I chat with you. I know that you're almost 30 years young as a company, but I don't see I don't know, I can't imagine you not always growing, so there may always be something to talk about. So
I sure hope so.
thank you so much for talking to me today.
You're welcome, Sarah.
Stay right here while I do closing, and thank you everybody for tuning in. And with that, I've